For you to get an actual understanding of who I am and why I did the things that I did, you need to understand that. When I got my sights set on something, I will go and fucking do it, and I won't stop till I achieve it.
Did you at any point feel guilty selling these type of drugs?
I didn't make anyone do shit. These are grown-ass people making their own decisions. I could say, yeah, I'm a victim then. Go to that point where it's painful, where you think, fuck, I've completely fucked up your life, because nobody changes before that. I can remember just saying to her, I'm not going to do this shit again. You know, just give me something.
So what was the plan that you executed?
The plan was to have the UK's largest online coaching brand. And the first time I told that to someone, I actually got laughed in the face. If you can't imagine a better future and you're just wallowing in your sorrow, then that's all you're going to have. This answer is probably going to catch you off guard. The advice I'm going to give is...
Welcome to Your Camel. All about grinding today for a better tomorrow. So if that's your kind of jam, make sure you hit that subscribe button. All right, man. Today we got a special guest. Imthiaz, hailing from Stoke-on-Trent. Welcome to the podcast, brother.
Pleasure to be here, man. Nice to finally meet you.
There you go, man. Round of applause for making it, man. Bro, I'll be honest with you, I'm super pumped to dive into your story, man. And you know what? I was looking at your website yesterday, and I was looking at the segment where it says, "Who is Imthiaz?" And I'm going to read the first two lines because I think it sets a nice tone of the podcast as well. And we're going to dive deep into this as well. So, Imthiaz grew up in a rough environment around the wrong role models, violence, gangs, drugs. Inside of the cell, he's seen it all. He'll be the first to tell you what it feels like to mess up and finding yourself at the bottom of the barrel. Through sheer hard work and a fundamental shift in his mindset, he was able to change the direction of his life. That, bro, is a wicked theme, tone to the podcast, and we're going to dive into it a lot deeper, so make sure you guys stay tuned to the end, yeah? But for those who are wondering, or even detached from the reality of what we're talking about, the underground world, give us a little taste of what we're talking about here. What is violence? What type of drugs are we talking about?
So, I think, for myself, we grew up in a predominantly Asian neighborhood, okay? And economically, it wasn't the best place to be. And I always had this thing inside of me where I wanted to excel. I wanted to be an outlier. I wanted to do big things, okay? But at the same time, I didn't know the avenues that I needed to go down to make this happen. And the avenue that opened up for me was drugs. You know, I used to see a lot of older lads. I can remember being 9, 10, maybe 11 years old, and seeing these guys with the jewelry, with the cars at the time, with the clothes. I was like, yeah, I want a piece of that.
Yeah.
And then I looked at how they were operating, where they were getting the money from, and put two and two together and, you know, kind of dived into that sort of world.
So let's unpack what you said there, bro, yeah? Let's take it in stages. Quite interesting, man. Because when I first came across your content, having a little browse, and if someone were to say to me, Habib, describe Imthiaz in 2 words, yeah, I would say aggressively ambitious. Do you think that's a fair description?
I think that's very fair. I think once I've got my sights set on something, I will do anything in my power to get it. It can be a good thing, it can be a bad thing, depending which avenue you go down.
Yeah.
Sometimes it has been, in the past, it has been detrimental to me. In hindsight, it probably wasn't detrimental because it probably some of the best things that ever happened to me were off the back of bad decisions. But that is pretty fair to say. Once I have got my mindset, once I've got a goal in sight, I just grind day by day until I get there. And that's sort of how I attack everything.
Yeah, and what's interesting, you mentioned, obviously, your circumstances wasn't great in terms of the environment that you were growing up in, yeah, bro. We talked about being aggressively ambitious. That ambition ultimately led you towards your involvement in organised crime, right? Selling Class A drugs, serving a 7-year prison sentence, which we'll get into a bit later on, so make sure you guys stay tuned. What series of events do you think took place in your life early on that led you to think that way?
It's from a place of lack, because previously, my granddad had come to this country in the 60s. We set up shops like a lot of Asian families did. And then over time, what happened was disputes in the family. And my family, my direct family, we end up on the wrong end of the disputes. So we come off worse off, essentially. And a lot of people, even within the community, don't know this. And there were Eids where we couldn't afford meat. We had to borrow money. There was a 6-month period where we didn't have heating in the house because the boiler was broke. We couldn't afford to get it fixed. And a lot of people within my direct community, because we held it on the surface, we didn't let anyone sort of know. But this was all going on behind the scenes, And you'll hear this with a lot of rappers, you hear it from a lot of guys who have grown up in similar environments. It was the small things that left a mark. So having holes in your trainers, not being able to get, I wouldn't even say the nice things, the normal things that other people had.
Yeah.
And that kind of put me in a mindset like, I don't want to be here. I'm not going to live my life like this.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get what I need to get to not let this happen again. And that's why, by any means possible, and that's what it was, I wanted to make it happen.
That's so interesting, brother, because, I interviewed a lot of people here, right? Entrepreneurs especially, right? And they indirectly attribute their success to an insecurity or something that's happened in their childhood, you get it? And you're kind of similar in the sense where you're saying that your desire to go out there and conquer, stemmed from a lack of having certain things, right? That's so interesting, brother.
That has to be there, because if you look at the world of sport, boxers don't come from the suburbs. They come off at estate. Footballers come off at estate. If you look at the world of business, Steve Jobs, he was adopted. Same goes for Jeff Bezos. So there is a pattern, especially in your younger years, when you have what you perceive to be traumatic experiences. People might differ and say, oh, that wasn't really traumatic. It's what you perceive it to be that engraves and leaves an imprint on your mind that can either be the catalyst or be the reason that you get stuck where you are. And in both circumstances, it changes your beliefs going forward. So, Tony Robbins says it the best when he says, you can either go back to your circumstance and say, this is the reason why I didn't do something, or you can say, I managed to achieve what I achieved in spite of said circumstance. So it's how it comes down to perception.
Yeah. Do you know, I was reading about you, right, or listening to a podcast about you, right? And you mentioned that you said to a teacher, I'm either going to be a successful businessman or a successful drug dealer.
Essentially the same thing.
Yeah, when you put it like that, to be fair, it is because there's a lot of things that go into it similar, which is, just in case people don't know what we're talking about, like customer acquisition, getting supplies, competition, all these kind of elements, you can transfer it over from a drug dealing to the business world. I get that. I want to explore that mindset a bit more, right? Because do you think that was, as we mentioned before, that mindset developed because of your lack? That's where the ambition essentially grew from. You didn't have that, and that's why you wanted to be ambitious. You wanted to prove a point. You had a bit of a chip on your shoulder in some ways.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
100%. I don't think anyone goes through pain, and I'm talking about the pain of business, because business is painful, growth is painful, just because they want to do it. It has to come from a place of emotion. It has to come from a place of lacking. It has to come from a place of, watch, I'm going to show you who the fuck I am and what I can do. Because you won't endure that pain day after day without having that in the background, in the back of your mind. Those situations where you were lacking, where you went without, where you were looking at other people and thinking, "Fuck, why haven't I got that?"
Yeah. What's interesting though, you put, because you want to be successful, right? Mm-hmm. But you put being a drug dealer, meaning that's what you said to your teacher. Mm-hmm. Right, I'm going to be a successful drug dealer. Where did that come from? Why did that even come into the picture? Why not just focus on the business side only?
Because that's the only thing I could see.
Right.
That's the only thing I could see. Apart from school, when I stepped outside my house, what role models in the community did I have? The guys who went to uni, did all that shit, they're in jobs, being told what, if they can go to the toilet or if they can book a holiday, being dictated to. It was just an extension of school.
Yeah.
And I didn't want that. I wanted to call my own shots. I wanted to be my own boss. I wanted to be in control of my life, because essentially that's what it's about, innit?
Yeah, 100%. And you ultimately decided to pursue, the path of, going into the underworld, basically, the criminal world, if you like, yeah? Mm-hmm. And the reason why I'm going a bit deeper on this side and staying on this topic is because there's a lot of people out there, bro, that are in that frame of mind. Mm-hmm. And from the outside, people are judging them, saying like, oh, why is this guy like this? But they don't realize that there's a reason why people go towards these activities. And you mentioned one key point there, which was lack of opportunity, lack of role models. Do you get it? You didn't see, because I asked you a point blank question, why didn't you just pick the business route? And you said it there perfectly well. You said, look, I didn't see anything else. There was no other opportunity. So obviously environment plays a key part, right?
Huge. And I think for me, there was no direct, you talk about business, you talk about doing it legit, you talk about all this shit, but the people in my life, like the guys who I looked up to and admired at the time, you look at them, you look at people for inspiration, and that was my inspiration.
Yeah.
That was the only thing I could draw on at the time. There wasn't anything else. Even at home, my old man wasn't really working. He was selling mobile phones out the boot of his car. That's what he did at the time. For me, was it a viable way to success? No.
Right. What was it about those peers? Because they say you're the average of the 5 people you hang around with, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm assuming those guys you hang around with, similar mindset, or the person that you're looking up to rather, they were similar of quality, selling drugs or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. What was it particular that was their lifestyle that was gravitating towards you? Was it, for example, the money? Was you fueled by the desire to acquire more money? Was it street creds? What was it specifically that you thought, wow, I want to be like these guys?
It's easy to say money.
Yeah.
But if you really deep it, it wasn't the money. It was everything else that come along with it. It was the freedom, the element of freedom that they had. They could go into a shop, or they could go, let's put it this way. If you're standing by the corner shop and these men pull up, they're about 10, 12 years older than me, yeah?
Yeah.
They're buying every kid that's around the shop what they wanted from the shop. And you look at that and you think, raw, you just bought me this thing. He probably doesn't even know my fucking name.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Nowadays, they'll say, oh, that's grooming.
Yeah.
I disagree with that, because when you've come from a similar position, when you've had fuck all, you're a lot more likely to be generous with what you've got.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, I've done it before, like ice cream van comes around, everyone on the block gets ice cream. That's how it goes.
It's almost like a form of giving back, right?
It is. It's weird.
It's a weird one, yeah.
But then at the same time, it is detrimental, because these kids do look at you and think, "Oh, he's doing bits here.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to do." And that is, that element of I do understand it can lead people down the wrong route, but at the time, these guys don't know any better. They're not thinking maliciously.
Yeah.
They're just thinking, yeah, man, I want to share what I got.
Yeah, 100%. In terms of your upbringing, was you like close with your family? Did you have a close-knit family, or was you like distant, or how would you describe that?
So with me, I'm the eldest of 3 sons, okay? So with me, and you probably have to ask my old man this, I've always been very different in my approach. And my thought processes. I've always been somebody who's rebelled
Right.
from the get-go. And
You was a problem child.
yeah, you could say that. I mean, I went through a period, I think, in my early 20s where I didn't speak to my old man for like 5 years.
Really?
Yeah. So after school, I got involved doing bits here and there.
So wait, hold on a second. You were involved in those activities that young?
Yeah.
Right, we're going to come to that in a bit, don't worry. We'll carry on, sorry, brother.
And then from that point, you know, we were struggling financially as a family. And I kind of took it like, I'm going to do what I need to do sort of vibe. And that created conflict at home to the point where I actually got kicked out of living at home. I was sleeping in an S-Reg Micra for 6 months.
Really?
With no power steering. Sofa surfing. That sort of thing. You know, staying at different people's houses until I started to find my feet, started to slowly climb. So that created a lot of friction in the household. That created a lot of problems. That created a lot of resentment on my part. Like, why are you not doing anything to better the situation? I'm willing to do whatever I'm willing to do. And that's why the way that I, especially in my probably later teens, early 20s, like I've always been an independent sort of person. And within the Asian community, what I find is, especially with men, and this is after coaching Asian men, is they are very reliant on their family. They can't really fend for themselves in terms of like day-to-day tasks.
Yeah, that's how we're raised, isn't it?
Yeah, you rely on your mother. And for me, I didn't have that through my own choice, okay? But what that made me was somebody independent who didn't look to anyone for anything, for any sort of handout, or it was me in it. It was me. It was all on me. And not having that support actually did me a massive favor long term, because once you come to that realization and you've heard it before and it gets thrown around that no one's coming to save you, shit changes. You start to view the world in a different way, and then you can kind of come to terms with, I am in control of what happens with my life.
Yeah.
And that external pressure from family was removed because we simply weren't speaking. And it got to a point where just before I did get nicked and I got sent down, you know, I had my own gym, I started a meal prep business. So I was going down the legit avenue as well. And it was at that point when I started speaking with my old man. He was like, and because I was taking proactive steps in doing something legit, it kind of broke the ice with him once again. And we started to communicate, and then obviously I went jail.
So much to unpack there, bro. So let's take it a little rewind, yeah? So how old was you when you were starting to do a little bits here and there?
Probably about 15.
15, that young?
Yeah.
Jeez. So let's explore that a little bit. Because you know what, I mentioned to you off camera that I interviewed, like, you know, AB Aslam.
Yeah, I've seen his interview, great interview.
Appreciate that, man. And his story is quite interesting because similar to what you said exactly, actually. He said in the interview that he started seeing people, you know, do bits here and there, and he goes, I want to be like that. Do you know what I mean? So I was going to ask you, when did you decide that's what I'm going to do? But you mentioned 15, you were already doing it.
Bro, check this for a mad one, yeah? And people will vouch for this as well. So when we were younger, I'm talking probably 8, 9 years old. And a normal 8, 9-year-old, they play these, you know, make-believe games. And I always used to take charge. So I had this fucking camcorder. I don't know where the fuck I got it from. And we used to like play act fight scenes and stuff like that. I can remember writing the script, right, for this thing. And the title for that was Drug Addict. I wrote a whole script for this fucking film.
At 9 years old?
Yeah. And that's how prevalent the drug world was for me.
Yeah.
And then I think I made my mind up pretty early on. Like and this isn't nothing to brag about, and this isn't me glorifying anything at all. Like I was taking drugs when I was like 12, 13 years old.
Really?
Yeah. I was
Wow.
smoking weed. I can remember taking class A's at like probably 14, 15.
Class A's, bro.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Do you get me? So
Yeah.
that's, we live in Stoke, and I was probably an outlier in that sense once again for the wrong reasons within the community. So, and I want to be, completely transparent here. I'm not trying to protect myself or sugarcoat anything. For you to get an actual understanding of who I am and why I did the things that I did, you need to understand that as well. So that's what it was like for me, and that's all my own choices, of course. But I was very aware of where I wanted to go from an early age. That incident you talked about in regards to Miss Swain, when I looked in the eye and I said, "That's what I want to do." I was 14 years old, bro. So I'd made my mind up at that point.
Right.
Do you get it? So
Yeah.
that's how, when I was saying to you, when I got my sights set on something, I will go and fucking do it, and I won't stop till I achieve it.
What did the early activities look like, and how did you get involved in that?
It was amateur. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It was just a bit of weed. I can remember getting a bit of coke from someone, and a very small amount, and trying to move that and bashing it and not knowing what the fuck I'm doing with it.
So you didn't have no guidance from the older lot you mentioned before. It was just like you buying it without telling anyone, and with the intention of selling it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then eventually, I think once you plant your feet and you kind of set up a store, your network grows. Same with anything. Same with business. Your network grows. You get more serious about it. You become more sophisticated. And that was like the development, essentially.
So it's essentially through trial and error. You're seeing what works, what doesn't work. You experimenting here and there, buying this, buying that, and then started to build your contacts, started to build a reputation and stuff like that. And you were doing this at 15?
Yeah. I mean, my first transactions as they were probably around 15, yeah.
Yeah. That's mad, Even I'm a believer to that 15-year-olds. I know they take it, don't get me wrong, but supplying it, getting about, building a network now, building the empire, that's a different story. To get it. So there's an article about you when you eventually went to prison. You tried to flood, as the article says, 160k worth of coke into Stoke.
Yeah, they always
Yeah.
blow those things out of proportion, man.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. But regardless, there's substantial amount of money being made, because I heard you talk about having 40k rollies on your wrist, RS3s, all that kind of stuff.
Even then, I think I was like 17 or 18. I got myself in like 10, 12 grand worth of debt. Because I was spending faster than what I was getting in. Cash flow, essentially. I was fucking up on that. And put myself in a bad situation with that. Got myself out of that. And then you learn your lesson. And then you start moving a bit smarter. And then from that point, it's, you bring on staff, as it were, people to handle different shit. You move on from one thing to the next, and, it's all cascades and kind of snowballs into one. But it comes down to organisation. I mean, you had a chat just before this about organisation, and that's what it comes down to. The best guys to do anything are organised. And that world is not exempt from that rule.
Right. So we talked about money there. What's the most amount of money you ever made?
I can remember it was over a Christmas period, and people go nuts.
Yeah.
New Year's time. It was just shy of 50k.
Really?
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, what type of clients buy these type of drugs?
For me, so the way I used to kind of market myself, it's the same shit, man. It's mad. The similarities between legit and illegal business is ridiculous. So you're going to market yourself. You want to appeal to a certain sort of individual, certain sort of client, customer, okay? Now, you are a walking advertisement. You are marketing yourself, okay? So for me, yes, I had a nice watch. Yeah, I had nice clothes. Yeah, I had a nice car, but that was also a way of getting attention.
Yeah.
Are you with me? And then you'd go sit in a pub or whatever, and people would pay attention, and you'd go in these places, in these raves or whatever, and people know, what is a young guy doing with that, that sort of money sort of thing. And that's how it used to pan out. But to answer your question, clientele varies, man.
Yeah.
Clientele varies. If you're looking like street level sort of things, you're obviously going to get street level sort of people,
Yeah.
But then obviously, eventually, you start moving up. You're dealing to dealers essentially, and it's the same thing. You just move up the chain.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same. It's the same with any wholesale business.
Yeah. So the idea of a rich white man, middle class, is outdated, cliched. You get South Asians.
I don't think it's a rich man's drug. I think it's like a middle class drug, which keeps the middle class poor. Same with everything that the middle class consume.
Interesting.
You're talking luxury goods, luxury items, luxury designer clothing. The whole idea of luxury is a falsehood, which has pushed the middle classes to make them spend. The wealthy don't spend the fucking money. The wealthy let their money make more money.
Yeah.
And the wealthy aren't the really well. I'm talking like, you know, actual wealthy, not what most people perceive as rich, you know, house on mortgage, semi-detached, 3-bedroom, 2 cars in the drive. That's not rich, bro. That's all of those are just liabilities. They're things that are going to take money out your fucking pocket. Same thing. Same with your, you know, your designer clothing. Same with the drugs. Essentially, it's that feeling of, yeah, I've got this lifestyle, so I'm up there as well. That's what it is. It's predominantly the middle class.
Yeah. Just taking it a step back, because I want to ask you a tough question as well.
Mm-hmm.
Did you at any point feel guilty? Because what you're doing is obviously, morally speaking, questionable, right? Mm-hmm. In fact, it's not good at all. Did you ever feel guilty when you were selling these type of drugs, knowing that it could ruin these guys' lives?
Not once.
Right.
Not once. Obviously, part of your when they try to reform you, you've got to. I can't remember what it's called. It's like a victim awareness course you've got to do.
Yeah.
Nobody ever sniffs a line that they don't want to sniff. Do you get me?
Yeah.
I didn't make anyone do shit. These are grown-ass people making their own decisions. I could say, yeah, I'm a victim then. I'm a victim of my circumstances. It's bullshit, bruv. It's absolute bullshit. I don't feel guilty once at all. No.
Fair.
And people can say, oh, he's not showing remorse. Think about it logically. What I was doing was wrong. Yes, I was creating an environment where, you know, it could fuel crime. These bad things could happen, okay? But at the time, did I feel guilty? No. Because if I felt guilty, I would have stopped, right?
That's true. Obviously, you left that life behind at one point. We'll come to that a bit later on. I'm still intrigued. Just out of curiosity, obviously, you now have a son, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't want to personalize anything, don't get me wrong. I just want to mention that now that he's come into your life, looking back, obviously, I'm assuming he's had a paradigm shift in your mindset.
Mm-hmm. In regards to my son, I think with Zach, the way I want to raise him is allow him to understand that there is this stuff that goes on in the world. I think protecting children from this, where you protect them to the point where they're completely oblivious, and when they find the thing, they're like, oh my God, this is fucking... It could go one or two ways, innit? Making them aware, like, what sort of place the world is a massive part in their development. Because when something catches them off surprise or something kind of comes across that they're not aware of beforehand, then they can go the wrong way.
Yeah.
You know? And so yeah, I'm a realist. I want to make them aware of the world, because once you're aware of the world, you can navigate it that much better.
Yeah.
You know?
I completely agree with you. You know, it's better to not put them in a bubble, protect them too much, is get them out there, understand the harsh realities of the world, right? Which is a nice segue to talk about now, to be fair. We talked about it from an angle where you've made a substantial amount of money, yeah? But I want to tackle it from a perspective of the harsh realities of this space. Can you give us some insight of what the realities are, bro?
Obviously, with drugs, there's going to be an element of violence involved. Essentially, that's why I end up in jail. You know, somebody owes some money, somebody got a slap in. You know, one thing led to another, and we ended up where we ended up. But the other thing is that nobody's really with you. If there's no benefit long term, and everyone's fake, man. Everyone's fake. You know, your so-called friends. I've sat there and have experiences where people are telling me about their so-called mates, what they've been saying about me, and then what they had planned for me, or whatever. Yeah, this is after the fact.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at the guy, I'm thinking, if you're telling me this, why am I going to ever put confidence in you? So it's all snaky shit.
There's no honor among thieves, right?
Bang on.
Right. You can't trust anyone in this game, right? So I'm assuming you've had experiences of people trying to do you over, because it's all territorial at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've had things go missing. You know, I've trusted someone with something or money or whatever. You know, people get sticky fingers, bits of money go missing, and you know, it's part and parcel. There's gonna be costs. You know, it's like the same way when Tesco employs somebody might be on the take. They might take home a pack of biscuits one day. You know, and then they get comfortable doing that, and they might take a whole tray. It's human nature. And because that world isn't regulated as such,
Yeah.
it's part and parcel in it.
Yeah. And I'm guessing, like, you're no angel yourself. You must have, you know, contributed towards that as well. What we just mentioned there. You've done it to other people as well.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I've done it to other people, but I can think of one instance. This is early on. I went and robbed someone, and they were working for somebody else that I knew, but I didn't know they were working for them. Do you get it?
Right.
So that shit goes on. But these things happen, man.
Yeah.
These things happen. You're going to have fallouts. You're going to have where people are stepping on your toes, you're stepping on their toes. You know, you'll have people that you collaborate with that you no longer collaborate with. You essentially go to whoever's feeding you. That's what it comes down to. But what I will say is, it's the same as business. You know, if you're somebody who can keep your word, you go a lot further than somebody who doesn't, you know. So in regards to like slyness,
yeah,
same applies whether it's legit or whether it's, you know, illegal.
Yeah.
You've got to be a man of your word. And that's the thing, not everybody is. And I think when you are a man of your word, you're always going to come, you know, second best in a situation where you're dealing with somebody who's not honest and straightforward.
So part of the realities, the topic we're on is the harsh reality of this game, right? You mentioned, obviously, first and foremost, there's no honor among thieves, right? You can't trust anyone, right? So there's no peace of mind, you can say.
Definitely not.
No peace of mind.
Definitely not.
The other aspect we talked about earlier is, yes, you're making a lot of money, but I'm assuming money comes in fast and goes just as fast.
Yeah, because, bro, what are you going to do when you got 50 grand in your shoebox, 100 grand in your shoebox?
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
You can't put it in your account, can you?
You can't do fuck all with it.
Yeah.
You're just going to blast it.
Yeah.
You can do dumb shit with it.
What do you spend it on, by the way?
Fuck it all. So it was like, it's everything you could imagine, you know, going out, clothes, cars, you know, getting rentals for a full month, like supercars for a full month, and fucking just dumb shit, nothing productive. I mean, when I did try to put into things that were productive, they were like a side thing. You know, something legit. It was a side thing. And you're right, you know, it takes, you'll have a hit here and there. You got to pay that off. For me, there's very few people that actually go clear. Very, very few people that go clear because of doing that.
Just for the audience, what do you mean by clear?
Going clear is like transcending that world, you know, breaking out. You get in it, you stay in it, unless something happens, you know, unless you go jail, unless something goes really fucking wrong, unless you're not actually making money. As long as the money's coming in, you can stay in it.
Just out of curiosity, you mentioned your relationship with your father before wasn't great. At this point of time where we are in the time frame, what was your relationship like with your family?
Now or then?
No. Where we are in the time frame, because we're talking about the height of your activities, right?
There weren't really a thought in my mind, if I'm being honest with you. It's like, I was that focused on doing what I was doing. we weren't speaking at the time anyway, you know, so it was me,
Right.
you know. Wouldn't really see much of him. Moved out the area, you know, had my own little spot somewhere else. So that really put a lot of stress on the relationship and almost killed it. And the only thing that actually brought it back is when I went to jail.
Did they, obviously they're aware of what's happening. Did they, I'm guessing they tried to reach out to you,
Yeah, there was no reason. You couldn't tell me shit.
Yeah.
Nobody could tell me nothing.
Right.
Nobody could tell me nothing. I had, you know, friends, family come up to me. I'm like, yeah, all right.
Why do you think that is? Let me put it this way. Was your ambition to become successful that deep to the point where you were blinded by, you know, any good really around you? Do you know what I mean?
I would say it's just a pure obsessiveness.
Yeah.
So I'm obsessive about coaching. I'm obsessive about business now. There's not a waking moment of the day where I'm not trying to progress my business or my coaching. There's not a moment. People say to me, oh, you know, when do you have downtime? I'm like, what the fuck's that? It's work. It's work. From the minute I get up to the moment I go to sleep, it's work. And I'm the same at anything, whatever I do.
Yeah.
And that's why, you know, I haven't been doing this that long. I haven't been coaching that long. And I come across coaches who are like, been in it 6, 7, 8, 9 years.
Yeah.
And they're not doing it the way that I'm doing it. Why? Because I'm obsessive. When I get up in the morning, my objective is I'm going to take on the fucking world every single morning.
Yeah.
That's the way I approach everything.
You transferred that, you know, ambition, the skill set required from drug dealing into your business now, yeah?
Yeah, as best as I can.
Yeah.
But that drive, you know, I don't believe you can give that anyone.
Yeah.
You can't just teach someone drive.
I agree.
You can teach them a lot of things. You can't teach them drive. And people are going to say it's obsessive. But these people are also people who ain't done shit, with all due respect.
Yeah. That's so interesting. So just to unpack it again. So obviously you mentioned that it's not a sustainable lifestyle ultimately. Yeah. Because I remember you saying in a podcast, yeah, that in the back of your mind, you always knew you was going to go prison.
Yeah.
Again, that's just odd to me, bro, because the obvious question is, why do it then, Imthiaz?
Statistically, you are going to go to jail at some point. You don't go into something without knowing the risks. And I was fully aware of the risks. And I was happy to take that risk. It's as simple as that. It's like the apartment I was staying in. I just left the walls blank. Didn't put no pictures up, didn't decorate. Because I knew I was going to go at one point.
Really? And that didn't deter you one bit?
Occupational hazard.
Really? That's how you viewed it?
That's what it is, right?
Yeah. It's more like this is part and parcel, part of the process.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Do you think a lot of other guys in that world have that same mindset? Really?
Yeah. I think unless you're an absolute idiot and you are oblivious to the fact that jail is a real possibility, and it is a real possibility, of course you're going to try to avoid it. Not like you're not going to try to avoid it.
Yeah.
But if you're deluded enough to think that you can't be touched and you're not going to go, then there's something very wrong.
Okay. So far, I'm getting a picture, right? And obviously we're talking about pre-Imthiaz now, okay? Today in front of me is a different Imthiaz. We'll get into that, how the mind's set kind of shifted in some ways, right? You know, back then you seemed quite hard-hearted, didn't care about the morality of how you made the money. You're going to get that money, you had to go, and that's it. Nothing's going to get in my way, that's it. Family situation wasn't great. You know, a lot of turbulence, you can say. And now you're knee deep in this whole underground activity, you can call it, right? So what series of event took place to eventually leading you to be imprisoned?
So I'm slightly limited what I can say because there's other parties involved, but essentially there was, we were under observation because of some violence that went down, and we were collecting something, and the doors come off the gaff basically. They're red-handed, bang to rights.
So you're being monitored.
Yeah.
You're being watched.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing a deal.
Mm-hmm.
And there was surveillance that you mentioned, watching that your every move, and they caught you red-handed basically.
Basically.
Who was involved? Can't say.
It's not my place.
We need a bit more detail though. Without obviously putting a detriment effect to you or anyone involved. You can't just leave us in a suspense like that, bro.
There isn't. I mean, it was pretty clean cut how they got us. But I think the main thing that led up to that point was somebody owned some money. Them getting a bit of a slap for it. And then them or their family member or someone close to them going to the police and be like, these guys are up to X, Y, Z. And then the rest kind of happened, you know?
Because you've done something similar so many times before, this must have been just another day for you, right?
Yeah, I was like, it was a Friday. It was just a normal day, man. Went gym in the morning, went and got some food, went and do this thing, and I didn't come home for 3.5 years.
Mad. So what I was going to say is that you didn't see it coming.
No, I don't think you do. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
You know, that's how it goes down. You never see it coming. But when I was in the holding cell, was I surprised that I was there? All I wanted to know was, how did you get, because I asked the copper when he was putting me in the car, goes, where did you get us? How did you get to this point? I was more concerned with like
The how.
Not why am I here?
Yeah.
How?
Did you know you was being monitored?
No.
Right.
No.
That's what I meant. You didn't know anything, no clues, nothing.
Nah.
Right.
Nah.
So they must have been doing it for months at least.
It was a decent amount of time.
Yeah. So you got into jail from there, like you mentioned, 3.5 years. It was a normal day, but you went out, never came back for 3.5 years. How would you describe your first week in jail? They say the first week's the hardest.
Yeah, because it's an adaptation period, in it. Obviously, you're there on remand. You don't know what you're getting. You know, that thought is still going around in my head. Like, at what point? Where did we slip up? Where did I slip up? Sort of thing. You know, how the bastards.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
So that was consuming you.
Yeah. But in the back of my mind, based off other people that I've seen sent down for similar amounts and similar things, I had like an 8-year sentence to do for in the back of my head. So I come to terms with that actually in the holding cell at the police station, and then I went to sleep. I remember sitting there thinking 4 years, and I just went to sleep.
The shut off.
Yeah, I mean, this is home now.
Because you're quite an accountable person, so you just thought this is my doing. I knew I was going to get her one day potentially.
Yeah,
just got to deal with it now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's what it was. I was like, this is home. I can remember, like, even though that the police cell, you know, at the holding station wasn't home, I was like, this is what you're going to be looking at, similar to this for the next 4 years in my head. So I'll come to terms with that very quickly.
Right.
Adapting to jail life, that was slightly more difficult, getting into a routine. You know, in the beginning, I was just like treating it like it was a normal, like you're still on road. But then when I spoke to some people, and I'm always open to advice, I'm always open to people who have done things before me and got more knowledge on something. They're like, look, you can do your sentence one of many ways. It's up to you. You can make your sentence what it is. And I took that to heart. I mean, the first 6 months I was still finding my feet, just adapting to being in a new environment.
What part of the process did you find difficult within those 6 months in particular, specifically speaking? You mentioned routine. Is it just being told what to do? Because you mentioned in your childhood that you don't like being told what to do. Essentially, you want that freedom.
Yeah.
So was it similar to that?
Yeah, it was that. But the way I combated that was I didn't rely on the screws for shit. So you see a lot of guys running down screws on the wing, like, oh, can you sort this out for me? Can you sort that out for me? I wasn't one of those prisoners. I just got on with it.
Right.
You know.
So essentially, how you were with your family, being secluded in some ways, not being close knit. You just kept yourself to yourself.
Yeah.
You kind of applied that to prison, right?
Yeah. I mean, bear in mind, I was in Oakwood for like 3 years. I was in Dovegate for around about 6 months, I think. 3 to 6 months. In Oakwood, been there 3 years, significant amount of time. There were still officers. When I went back there last year to deliver a talk, there was officers that were like, what's his name? Who's this guy? That's how much I kept myself to myself. You know, very rarely I'd run an officer down, oh, can you get me? I just got on with it. The rules are the rules, innit?
Yeah.
Don't cry. I put myself here. That's the way I kind of deal with everything. You put yourself in the situation, just deal with it the best way that you can.
Interesting. What was the hardest part of jail for you then?
Figuring out who I was going to be when I got out.
Interesting.
That was the hardest part. Who am I going to be? Because in the beginning it was like, the first 6 months were like, yeah, okay, occupational hazard, no problem. Let's see what you can do. Let's see if you can move smarter. Let's see if you can be bigger when you get out.
Yeah.
But then as you settle in and you speak to people, you figure out like, this doesn't work. It's not a long-term viable option to live your life, because you're going to come back here and you're going to live most of your life behind bars. And it's not actually that scary, because like I said, I wanted to be somebody, I wanted to do something in my life, and jail doesn't allow you to do that. You're just a number. You're literally just a number. And my prison number was A9229ED. That's who I was on the face of it. You know, it's a human warehouse. That's where you are.
Yeah.
You know, and I thought, okay, nah, I can't create the impact or be the person I want to be in here. So I had to decide, after a conversation with a guy called Martin, who's 52 years of age. So he took a liking to me as soon as I got in the wing, looked after me, you know, at Oakwood. And he was in for importation. So he was higher up the food chain than myself.
He's an inmate as well?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. He's 52. He's finishing off at 25. And this guy, I was chatting to him about his case, and I'd always, anyone who's involved in drugs, I'd pick their brains.
Right.
Like, probably piss some people off, but it is what it is. I just wanted to know more information. You know, I'm a guy driven by information. And it was like, yeah, this happened to me, and ended up getting 25 years. I'm just finishing off. And the more I spoke to people, the more I figured out, like, this is a revolving door.
Yeah.
So yeah, those conversations where I took them to heart. You know, I thought, okay, let's learn of people who've been in this a lot longer than me, who've climbed a lot higher. In
terms of the underground world activities you're talking about, not like legitimate business at this stage.
No.
Right. So you actually got out of prison at when?
October 2021, 10th of October 2021.
Serving how long?
3.5 behind the door.
3.5 behind the door. Okay.
What I like about jail, I like quite a few elements of jail. What I like the most about jail is you can create your own schedule, you can create your own time, you can create what you pour your time and effort into. You want to pour it into being an idiot, you want to pour it into drugs, you want to pour it into whatever, fitness, do you get me? I spoke to one lifer who's actually a good mate of mine, Mick. And he's come through the dispersals, you know, dispersal system and A cats and B cats, and works himself down. And he put it to me like this: he goes, "Whatever you're gonna do in here, you're gonna become an extremist. And whatever you do, whether it's religion, whether it's drugs, whether it's fighting, whether it's fitness, whether it's education, you will become an extremist."
Is that because you're eliminated from distractions and you can just zone into that one thing you want to do?
Yeah.
Right.
And me being an obsessive person as it is, I thought, okay, let's play to your strengths. Let's create somebody here.
Up until now, brother, you never had really a humbling experience, right? You've always had it your way. You've been your own boss. You got the freedom, etc. Right? Now you're in prison. You're restricted, and it's somewhat of a humbling experience, right? Yeah. And the reason why I mentioned that is because you just mentioned there that I started to educate myself. Before that wasn't even a consideration. Do you get me? I don't know. I'm asking you. You might have thought that I know what I'm doing, blah blah blah. But for the first time, you're talking about self-education. This period now seems like the turning point, the mindset shift we're seeing now, and we're seeing Imthiaz 2.0. You can call it, right? So talk to me about that. What did that process look like? I know you did a bit of overview there, but let's get into the details. What exactly did you do to, have that paradigm shift, and what, to develop the person you are today, brother?
Okay, so the first book I read was Mike Tyson, The Undisputed Truth. And great book, by the way. And as an individual, I can relate to Mike Tyson because he's very chaotic in nature. But at the same time, he's very articulate. He's very intelligent at the same time. He's very aware, and he's a realist. And obviously, he had his time in jail. And in his book, he talks about reading. So he used to read a lot of fiction in jail. And I tried that. So I think he talks about reading books like The Count of Monte Carlo. Had that ordered, read some of that. I was like, nah, this ain't me. And I thought, okay, let's try informational stuff. And I started to look into business, accounting, elements of law, obviously the human body and physical fitness and whatnot, marketing. And I started to read up on these things, psychology,
Was there a trigger or influence that led you to those books in particular, or was it just you?
All knowledge is interlinked. Every single piece of knowledge is interlinked in some way.
Yeah.
So I'd read one book, and that'd lead me to another book, and lead me to another book, and that's how it kind of cascaded.
Okay. Basically, you found one that you're interested in, and then you just went with that, and then that led to other books. Fair enough. Yeah.
All knowledge is interlinked. So that's how it kind of unfolded for me. I did my level 2 and level 3 qualification in jail, which is obviously a personal training qualification. But at the same time, because I'm more business minded, I thought, okay, this is like ground level, frontline sort of shit. How can I scale this? The ins and outs of it, I wasn't sure, but I knew I had to have certain skills that I needed to acquire or read about.
Yeah. And how far was you into your sentence at this point?
About 6 months. 6
months in. Okay.
6-7 months. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And then, I was like, I read through my entire sentence. And what actually led me to that point, I was, at the beginning of my sentence, I was still living like I was on road, okay? So I was put on basic for refusing a pad mate and spazzing out. And then whilst I was on basic, I was smoking weed, but got popped down for a piss test. I was just thinking, bro, I can't do my sentence like this. This ain't the one. This is not the one. You get me? So I can remember praying Salah, and it was Isha namaz, yeah. I can remember putting my head to the ground, and people tell you about these things, but for me, it was almost as if I left my body and I could see myself in this jail cell from a bird's eye view as another person in the room, watching myself And I stayed in sujood. Couldn't even tell you how long. At that point, I was like, I can remember just saying to Allah, look, I'm not going to do this shit again, you know. Just give me something. Give me some sort of an avenue I can exploit. And that's what, for me, that was like, if I had to pinpoint one point in my sentence, that was it. That was it that made me switch. Okay. As things started revealing themselves to me, I started having these conversations with people. I started having, you know, these epiphanies, as you, if you like, as to what I'm going to do, how I'm going to go about it.
So then you started to connect certain dots going forward. Things started to come together. I find it so interesting, by the way, that you humbled yourself to your knees. It reminds me of Malcolm X when he converted to Islam. One of the hardest things he found to do was to go down sujood, prostrate. He couldn't do it. And I remember reading his book. He couldn't do it, but then obviously since then he did it, and then we know what happened next in it. Basically, he became the man who he is today, and it's kind of similar in that sense where you put your head down to the ground at Isha Salah, and then, you know, asking for guidance ultimately, right? And we talk about humility. For the first time, it seemed like you humbled yourself after a very long time, putting your head to the ground, asking for that guidance. And to me, that's beautiful, bro. That's so powerful. Do you know what I mean? Moving along with the timeline then, so you started reading the books, started developing your mindset, and then from what I understand, you started to put a plan together for when you come out of prison to execute.
Yeah, for sure. So I knew that my tool was fitness, because I was doing the level 3. I was training people in jail. I had prisoners and even the screws saying like, what should I eat? This sort of shit.
Yeah.
I was thinking, hold on, I can charge for this, you know? And I can remember one of my boys, Tremaine, making a joke, because I was a go-to guy for, if you want a training plan or a nutrition plan or whatever, you'd come to me, sort of thing. And I can remember him making a joke, saying, eventually you're going to have to charge, you know, you're going to have to pay big bucks for this. He was saying to the lads, make use of it now.
Yeah.
And there was truth in that. So
that must have been a light bulb moment, innit?
Yeah. And then I devised a business plan. I had a phone at the time, which obviously I shouldn't have had, but I was using that to like research and read up and do all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
In regards to that, I can even remember going on Fiverr, check this for a madness.
From prison, by the way.
Yeah, on Fiverr and getting a logo made. Not the logo you see for Base Alpha. So originally it was going to be called The Lab.
Right.
Athletic Performance Academy, which is a bit of a mouthful. But I can remember having a logo made. So I knew what I wanted to do. Obviously, application is different. When you go to apply, knowledge is completely different. There's nuances and there's things in there that you don't really account for. But yeah, the intention was always to do what I'm doing now. And when people ask me, you know, are you surprised? Or, you know, not at all. Not at all. This is exactly what I had written down. I'm just moving closer and closer and closer to it.
So there was obviously an element of planning for a couple of years. You got out, and then you started to execute the plan. Would you say, yeah? So what was the plan that you executed?
The plan was to have the UK's largest online coaching brand. And the first time I told that to someone, I actually got laughed in the face. Well, I say in the face, he's sniggered under his breath. Yeah, he was a local gym owner. There've been a couple of gym owners, actually. And one of them actually reached out to me a couple of weeks ago. It was like, because if there's any hard feelings or anything about what I said to you, I apologise. I'm glad to see your business doing well, etc. But I think you've got to have like a big, stupid, silly goal that you go for, because it's not about the money. Like I know people say it's about money, it's about legacy, it's about whatever it might be. It's not. It's about impact. And for me, the more people I can impact, the better.
Yeah.
And the impact I'm trying to create is I want to cultivate men and move them away from this soft sort of agenda being pushed nowadays. This feeling of being useless in modern society and finding a purpose and honing that, because ultimately my purpose is to do that. By me giving them their purpose allows me to do what I want to do, allows me to live my purpose, what I believe that is on a career business level.
Yeah. Touching upon that though, what do you see the biggest issue is with our youth, you can call it, with our men? Because you mentioned that they're useless, so you obviously see a problem with our...
Yeah, it's the feeling of being useless. Like, I touch on this a lot, and a lot of people talk about this nowadays. It's the feeling of not fitting in to society, modern society, for the average man that they struggle with. You know? That's the biggest killer. Male suicides are all-time high. Knife crime, all-time high.
Yeah.
Domestic violence, all-time high. And that coincides, the further we've moved away from the traditional roles for men in society, the more this has become prevalent.
Yeah.
Is that a coincidence? I don't think it is. You know, you give a man purpose, a goal, something to live his life for. That's all a man wants.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily the money. It's not necessarily about material objects or anything else.
So as well as getting people into shape with base alpha, you want to have an impact on their life in terms of helping them feel competent, you can say?
Yeah. Able, capable.
Capable, able.
Yeah.
And just feeling like a man again, and don't be shy to feel that way.
Yeah. That's one thing that we work on very closely.
Yeah.
And very intimately with the men that come through our doors, is actually having a framework in place on how you can cultivate that mindset.
Because you mentioned earlier, you're not born with drive. So I would imagine it's a tricky to instill that within them, right? And you're going to get a lot of, not rebellion, but lazy, is that the word? Lazy clients or unwilling to engage? You're the expert, you tell us.
You're dealing with human beings at the end of the day. But I don't think anyone who lacks drive would sign up with a coach.
Do you think?
Very few. So don't get me wrong, you're going to get some guys who just want to throw money at the issue, okay?
Yeah.
But when I first have that initial conversation with these people, I say to them, you do know this is not going to be easy. I try my best to put them off.
Yeah.
You do know that this is going to be a challenge. You do know you are going to have to take ownership. Because if you've got those things in place, I can guide you. But you have to be willing to be guided. You have to be willing, you have to be coachable. You can't coach someone who's not coachable. So I always try to eliminate anyone who doesn't fit what we stand for.
So you basically vet them. You have a vetting process.
Look, if you're coming into my business and I'm coaching and you're going to take up my headspace, I need to know that you're the right guy. You know? I'm here to guide you, not do everything for you. It's on you. You got to take ownership. It might be a knowledge gap. You might not be privy to information or knowledge beforehand, whether it's nutrition, training, lifestyle, or mindset. But I've read the books. I've been there. I've done it. You want to tap into me? That's what it's about.
Interesting, man. Let me ask you a question, bro. So obviously you left the old lifestyle behind, right? Let me pose a scenario to you, right? Let's say you're in a situation where you're in financial difficulty. Would you be ever tempted to go back to your old lifestyle, considering how fast and easy it is to get the money?
I have been tempted.
Yeah.
I'd be a liar to say it. I hadn't.
Of course.
When I got out, I was starting from scratch. The old contacts are still there. But then it goes back to, you know, that moment where I was insecure, prostrating.
Mm.
It goes back to that moment.
So you have consciousness of God now. Would you say that's more of a deterrent for you?
Yeah, it's me keeping my word,
Right.
the promise I made.
Of course, yeah. You made a promise, didn't you? That I won't go back to this lifestyle. Have you been close to going back, regardless of that? Have you been close?
I mean, there've been thoughts. I'd be a lie to say if there weren't thoughts when in the beginning,
Yeah.
when it was difficult.
Yeah.
But like I said, when you've got a purpose, you'll go, you know, you'll walk over hot coals and broken glass to get there.
What skills have you transferred over from that lifestyle into your business, would you say, that's surprisingly useful?
Management, operations, having systems in place, coaching. It's all transferable. And you'll actually find that the best entrepreneurs are drug dealers, in my opinion, because with drugs, you can't market that openly. You can't go and shout that from the rooftops and put it on social media.
Yeah.
And if you can make money in that, and you do well in that, you'll absolutely nail legit business.
Yeah. You know, one thing I like about podcasts, bro, that you can't get from short form content is the real person across the microphone, right? So I think people are going to get a deeper understanding of you, who you are as a person, etc., your motivations, which I love, by the way. And one of the things that's a revelation to me is throughout this conversation, there was no really feeling of empathy coming from you, right? Until I asked you the question, like, you know, how do you instill drive in your clients? And you said something interesting, which kind of humanized you in some ways, right? You said they're human beings at the end of the day. But it shows that you care about your clients. You want to make an impact. You want to make a difference. But it's also surprising because, you know, at the same time on your social media, like I said, you can't see the real person behind that. All we're seeing is you're an effing wimp. You're this and that. You know what I mean? Like, get over yourself. We mentioned off camera that clients are calling you on a Sunday. I want to mention that because I want to show how dedicated you are, you know, at the same time, and how you dedicate your team are. That's empathy. That's care. Do you know what I mean? And I want to highlight that. I want to demonstrate that. And I want people to resonate with that when they watch this as well. So how does that fit into your coaching, for example? Obviously, there's a time to be accountable and lead by the stick, but you also recognize from what it seems that there's a time to be like, okay, look, let me give this guy a bit of slack, or let me find a solution for his problems.
Yeah, it's more finding solutions. So, you know, you're going to have periods where shit hits a fan, things don't go according to plan. You know, people go through life, essentially.
Yeah.
People mistake having empathy for being soft.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes empathy is telling someone, get the fuck up and do what you're meant to be doing. Sometimes that is the most empathetic thing you can say to them.
Yeah.
And there are other times when it isn't. So, yes, we do deal with human beings. Human beings are different. They react to different things. Someone you can shout at. Some people you got to put an arm around. But ultimately, I can't want the end goal more than you want it yourself. Because if there's a disparity in that, then we can't really, how we're going to get a result.
Yeah. So while we're on the topic of your business, Base Alpha, yeah, what's your ideal client?
My ideal client is somebody who's driven, ambitious, go-getter, but sometimes they lack discipline, they lack dominance, they don't have a presence, but they want to be that guy. They have that will to win. They have something inside of them that tells them, as long as I put the work in, I deserve better than my current situation. That's who I'm looking for. Because sometimes it is a case of just knowledge. It's a case of you haven't got the guidance. You haven't got that person to put their arm around you and say, listen, bro, let's go this way.
By the way, how you are on camera, is that exactly the same how you are in your coaching? Just out of curiosity.
Like if I let you into my domain I'm going to treat you like family.
Yeah.
And anyone who says I'm the same as I am on camera, I'm with family, is absolute bullshit. You know, it's absolute bullshit. You put me on camera with my mother, I'm going to be completely different. You put me on camera with my friends, I'm going to be completely different. And that's a skill you've got to have.
Yeah. Would you say you tone it down then in coaching, with your one-to-one coaching?
No, I told someone they're a pussy this morning.
Yeah. I love how you have a straight face saying that as well.
I did. It's the truth.
Oh,
this
God.
morning,
Yeah.
I told them point blank.
So the reason why I'm asking this question, by the way, is that do you think that would, repel your chance of getting clients in?
Yes, and that's what I want.
Yeah.
I'm not for everybody.
Right.
I'm not for everybody. If you're somebody who wants a nice time,
Yeah.
somebody who wants an easy ride, I'm sure there's somebody else out there for you.
Yeah. Like Joe Wicks, for example. I don't know if you heard of
Yeah,
him.
man.
He's for everybody, right?
Yeah, you go have your 15-minute meals, mate,
Yeah.
and do some aerobics. Happy days. But if you're serious about changing your life in a shortish period of time, you call me.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Mr. No BS approach. Best way to put it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't appreciate anyone sugarcoating the words, being indirect, pussyfooting around the issue with me. It's doing me a disservice by doing that. And the same way I'd be doing my clients a disservice by doing that.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. And, I could come on here and be like, yeah, man, listen, I cater to all and I'll work with, anyone. It's a lie. It's a lie.
Yeah.
You've got to draw the line somewhere, because you're going to take up a space for somebody who is much better suited, who actually wants it, who actually wants a change, and you're going to fill that space with somebody who's a wisher, who's a dreamer, who's a tie kicker. Why would I do that? Why would you deprive someone of that opportunity? And that's the most annoying thing.
Yeah. So that's really your USP in it in some ways. Because there's, what comes to mind is there's so many online coaches now. Everywhere you look on your Instagram, bro, there's an online coach, right? But what differentiates you would say, is that hardcore accountability, no nonsense BS approach, and obviously deliver the results.
Yeah. It's the method. It's the way that you get there. And like I said, with us, we work on mindset. Mindset is probably the biggest thing that we work on, because the body will follow.
Yeah.
You fix the way somebody thinks, the way that they process information, the way that they perceive obstacles. You create a completely different human being.
That's actually overlooked, to be fair. The mindset element, everyone just gives you the blueprint how to get the shape. But if you don't have the mindset, i.e. the discipline, and also not to you're going to have your bad days. You need to know what to do when you do relapse.
Yeah.
We're all human, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
That comes into mindset in some ways as well. Just get back on it, right?
Yeah, straight away. And people say, I always say to my clients, or have said to people who've said it to me in the past, like when they say, yeah, I fell off the wagon.
Yeah.
Well, the wagon's still there. Just get back on. It's not that difficult.
Just consistency is king, right?
Yeah. The thing is, what I want people to realize is we are here for a finite amount of time. A very short amount of time, if you look at it in the grand scheme of things. Yeah. So make it fucking count. Don't pussyfoot around things. Set a big target, a big goal, to the point where people will laugh at you. And go for that. Create the vision for your life. But when you explain it to the common man on the street, they're going to look at you and think, this guy is off his head. Because if you get that sort of reaction, you're on the right track. But then go out and execute. Because you won't have these issues of where you're struggling, you're depressed, you can't get out of bed in the morning. You can't do the things that you need to do that aren't so glamorous, that aren't sexy. Yeah. The boring. Because the boring is where it's at, The boring is where you make the progress. And I want to if anyone takes anything away from this, is think big, think bigger than what you're currently thinking, and go out and execute. Because soon, the body you're in, currently we're both youngish men, that's going to fail. And then before you know it, you're not here no more. And what are you going to say about your life? What impact would you have left?
Yeah.
That's what I want to kind of leave people with.
You essentially summarised Your Camel. Grind today for a better tomorrow, man. That's what Your Camel's all about, G.
There you go.
Love that, man. Love that. Let's move on to the IG questions before you wrap it up then.
Are these by viewers, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
your followers should say.
Yeah. So by the way, guys, make sure you follow @Your Camel Podcast if you want a chance to ask future guests some questions. We always put a story out, and then, you can ask your questions basically. And obviously put all the links in the description for Base Alpha as well. If you want to get in touch, want to be coached by Imthiaz, his team in the future, make sure you reach out as well. So the first question is, what's a good piece of advice somebody gave you that helped you in business?
Delegate. You've got to delegate.
That's what I need to do.
You can't be a one-man team.
That's what Imthiaz was giving me in terms of advice before we started this podcast, by the way. But
yeah, you can't be a one-man team. You try to keep all the balls in there at the same time on your own. You're going to drop one eventually. Bring in people that are smarter than you. Hire people who have been where you are, where you're trying to get to. Invest in knowledge. Invest in yourself. Create the person through that knowledge that can achieve the result. Because the only ceiling that's in place, and the only reason that there's a ceiling in place is because you're not good enough yet. And the way that you get good enough is by knowing certain shit. And most people don't know the shit that they don't know, So it's investing in knowledge.
I love that, bro. Reflecting on your journey of transformation, what advice would you give to others who may be struggling to break free from a life of crime and build a successful, legitimate future?
This answer is probably going to catch you off guard. It's easy for me to say, kids, don't do drugs and don't do crime and don't do this and don't do that. I take it that's a man who's asked that question, and people who are involved with crime generally, men. The advice I'm going to give is go to that point where it's painful, where you think, fuck, I've completely fucked up your life, because nobody changes before that. That's my advice.
Go to the pain threshold, you said.
Yeah, go to the pain threshold. Go to that, because it's easy for me to say, look into other avenues and, read books and all this sort of shit. People aren't going to do that. But if you're in a certain amount of pain and you're not happy with where you're at the moment, how much worse has it got to be? How much worse has it got to get? It's, people kind of, how effective is me giving advice saying, yeah, just look into business and read books and do all this sort of stuff. To a guy who's on the road on his phone in the car, he's not going to really do that. He is not going to do that. His phone's going to ring and he's out the door. He ain't got the time. What I will say is, don't let it get to a point of calamity before you do change.
Right.
Because it will get to that. That's the advice I give there. It isn't really tangible advice, but I think as guys, we've got to go through pain before we do make a behavioural change.
No, I think I understand what you're saying. I think there's a study, if I'm not mistaken. So basically, right, people are more likely to take action to avoid a pain than they would to achieve a gain.
Yeah.
That's mad, isn't it?
Yeah, loss aversion.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Next question. To be fair, you kind of touched upon this. Are there specific skills or qualities that individuals should focus on developing in order to increase their chances of success?
Yeah. The number one I would say is sales.
Yeah. Why sales?
Because you're selling on a daily basis. For you to get somewhere, should I say. For example, when a kid asks his mum for pocket money, he's making a sale. Mom, I need pocket money. There's ice cream. I really like this ice cream. And, you know, the kid down the street, he got ice cream. He's trying to make a sale. He's trying to convince his mother to hand over this money. You do it in every element of your life.
Yeah, whether we know it or not, we're always selling, right? You might not think it's sales.
When you approached me, you sold yourself to me.
Yeah.
To get me here.
Good point.
You know?
Yeah.
Sales. You've got to be able to sell in some way, shape or form.
Yeah. So get good at sales to improve the chance of you winning in life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Last 2 questions, bro. What message of hope or encouragement would you like to convey to those who may feel trapped or hopeless in their current situations?
Create a vision for your life, because without seeing it in your mind clearly, you will not be able to change your reality. You've got to have that 2020 vision of what your life could be in your mind. That is the first step. You have to have imagination. I always say imagination is the highest form of intelligence, because for you to create something, for something to come into existence, whether it's a life, whether it's a product, whether it's a service, you first have to imagine this thing. If you can't imagine a better future and you're just wallowing in your sorrow, then that's all you're going to see. That's all you're going to have. Create the vision, put pen to paper. It's one of the first things I do with my clients. I get them to create a 12-month vision for their life. What their life is going to be like in 12 months' time. We dig into, it could be anything. What car you're driving, what, how you're looking, what clothes you're wearing, if you've got married or whatever it might be. Put your pen to paper and just write. Create that vision. That's the first step. Once you've got that vision, there'll be an element of feeling less lost.
Yeah, because you've got a purpose now, direction.
Yeah. You've got the first part of the puzzle. The next part is then obviously creating the action plan to make that a reality.
Yeah.
Which is going to come down to daily tasks.
Yeah.
What you do on a daily basis to make that happen. First thing is create the vision. If you're sitting there feeling sorry for yourself, crying about your life and how shit things are, that's all you're ever going to have. Until you look at what you could have and what you want to have and put pen to paper and actually imagine it in your mind, it's just going to stay the same.
100%. Because at the moment, what that person is doing is just giving evidence to himself of why he's shit.
Yeah.
Whereas if you take action steps, you'll start finding evidence to support why you're capable of achieving more as well.
Whoever asked that question, sit down for 20 minutes, 30 minutes and write down what you want your life to be.
Yeah.
Instead of focusing on what you haven't got, focus on where you could be, where you could go. What is the destination? Look forward.
100%. And finally, what's the best place to reach out to be coached or trained by you or the team?
Hit me up on Instagram.
IG is the best place, yeah?
Yeah, i.g.basealpha.
Links in the description, guys. Imthiaz, thanks for coming on the pod, man.
It's been an absolute pleasure, man.
It's been good,
Yeah.
It's been insightful, and I have a feeling we're going to do it again. Hopefully.
Inshallah.
Yeah, as things progress as well.
Yeah, we'll make it happen.
What I'm saying. If you enjoyed the podcast, make sure you leave a comment, like, and subscribe. It helps the channel more than you know. With that being said, we'll see you in the next one. Peace.